Okay, so Nigel's just asked me to do a quick video this morning to summarise some of the training that we did in the Marina office yesterday morning. So we had a mixture of consultants and coordinators, and the idea was to share some technical knowledge and also to perhaps give some more ideas for things that the coordinators can talk about on the phone to prospects. So we went through deed of variations, the overseas enhancement to the lifetime allowance, and a little bit about expression of wishes on pensions. Okay, so when somebody passes away, they would usually leave a will. The will will detail exactly where they want their assets to go upon their death. So, as an example, in a case that we worked on in Abu Dhabi recently, our client Louise was left some assets from her father when he passed away. And as detailed in the will, the assets were passed on to Louise and she would inherit them, hold them in her own name. However, as Louise is wealthy in her own right, it didn't really make sense for her to inherit this £200,000 and have it sitting in her estate. So we recommended that Louise executed a deed of variation on her father's will. This effectively rewrites the will and changes where the assets end up. So instead of Louise receiving the £200,000, this money was passed into a discretionary will trust. And inside the will trust, we can use a portfolio bond and the usual tax advantages, such as the 5% tax deferred withdrawals and time apportionment relief apply. Now, Louise can still benefit from the trust as she is a beneficiary, as well as her husband, her children, and any future grandchildren that she might have. Now, the deed of variation has to be executed within 2 years of the date of death. So luckily for this case, we just were able to do this within the timescale. The solicitor had to draft the deed, but they were able to do that in a couple of hours. So the idea with this, perhaps as a marketing campaign, is that we can speak to clients who perhaps received an inheritance within the last 2 years, and that could be from their parents, from other aunties, uncles, etc. But hopefully, as we're speaking to lots of clients that are perhaps in their mid-50s and starting to think about inheritance tax planning, for wealthy clients, it shouldn't really be the right thing to do for them to inherit this money directly into their estate. So by using a deed of variation, which is a very simple and quick tool to help people plan for inheritance tax, we can help them save quite a bit of money here. So for the case that we worked on in Abu Dhabi for our client Louise, if she was to inherit that £200,000, assuming that she's going to pay 40% inheritance tax in the future, just by doing one simple task, she's still able to have the portfolio bond and benefit from this money, but we've saved her perhaps 40% of £200,000. Okay, so next we covered a little bit about the lifetime allowance and protections that are available to help people who might have a lifetime allowance problem. Now, we went through fixed protection, so that is where you can protect your lifetime allowance at 1.25 million, so long as you haven't contributed to a UK pension scheme since the 5th of April 2016. So we just also need to remember to be careful where we have clients who have been living overseas and then they go back to the UK and they might be automatically enrolled into a UK pension through their employer. They need to make sure that they opt out of that scheme straight away. We also talked about individual protection, which isn't as popular, but for that you just had to have benefits in excess of £1 million on the 5th of April 2016, and you can protect your lifetime allowance at the lower of 1.25 million or the value of your benefits at the 5th of April 16, and this allows you to still contribute to a UK pension. We also then talked about the overseas enhancement. Now, this is quite a niche area, not many advisors overseas are familiar with it, and this is in respect of benefits which have been accrued whilst the individual has been living overseas, so they've not been a UK resident and therefore they haven't received any UK tax relief on their pension contributions. So the Revenue have quite kindly said that it would be unfair to count those benefits towards an individual's available lifetime allowance. Therefore we can apply for an enhancement factor to take into account the fact that some benefits have been accrued whilst the individual has been overseas. So just as a quick example, if an individual went overseas in 2006 and at that point they'd accrued £10,000 a year in a final salary scheme, if they were then overseas for the next 10 years and after 10 years they went back to the UK and at that point their annual pension entitlement was £50,000 a year, you can see that there was £40,000 that has been accrued while the individual was a non-UK resident and therefore has not received any UK tax relief. So that £40,000 is given as an enhancement to the lifetime allowance, and the way that that is calculated is by multiplying the £40,000 by 20, as 20 is the multiplier that we use to assess annual income against the lifetime allowance. So £40,000 a year multiplied by 20 is £800,000. So this individual would have an enhancement of effectively £800,000 of what the standard lifetime allowance is. So for simplicity, if we assume that the lifetime allowance is still a flat £1 million, this individual would have an extra £800,000 because it's seen as a factor. So that would be an extra 80%, or the way that it's actually documented is a factor of 0.8. So if the lifetime allowance is £1 million, you're going to get an extra 0.8 or 80%, so that would give the individual a lifetime allowance of 1.8 million. Now, this has to be applied for within 5 years of the individual stopping accruing benefits in the scheme. So there could be some clients that have missed this, but it's definitely worth, when you're speaking to clients who are members of final salary schemes that have been paid into while they've been overseas, to ask if they have applied for the overseas enhancement. And also, if you're speaking to clients on the phone who might have already transferred their pensions, it's worth asking if their advisor has sorted this out for them, looked into it and explored whether they might be eligible. Because the scheme and the trustee have no responsibility to advise their clients that this is possible, so this is really where we can add value to our clients. The final point from yesterday's training session was about the expression of wish or nomination of beneficiaries form, which is used for pensions. I've spoken to the pension trustees and they've told me they still receive applications where this section has been left blank, and this will only cause problems in the future. The first problem is that it's going to cause delays when the pension scheme member passes away, because the pension trustees don't know who to pay the benefits to. Secondly, only someone who is nominated can receive a beneficiaries or dependents flexi access drawdown. So if you've got a case where it's a husband and wife and all of the benefits have been left to the wife, that might suit their needs. However, the children could not benefit from flexi access drawdown. So therefore it's important that if you've got a case where it's a husband and a wife and let's say 2 children, we'd suggest that the wife is left 98% of the benefits and then the children receive 1% each. And then it's up to the trustees to decide how the pension benefits are left, and that can depend on what is right at the time. The expression of wish document can be updated at any time. So if you've got any clients that you think might need to change this, it's very simple to do so, and it can also be a good way when you're speaking to prospects on the phone, perhaps that have already transferred their pensions, to ask if they have updated this. And the final point on pensions is just to do with flexi access drawdown on defined contribution schemes. Whilst it is possible for everyone in the UK to benefit from flexi access drawdown, a lot of schemes haven't actually built this into their systems. So although you often come across clients who've got pensions, even with the big names like Aviva or Standard Life, where flexi access drawdown isn't actually available for that particular scheme, and the only way that the client can benefit is by transferring to another scheme within that same pension company.